I know people have talked to you about whether or not you want to run. Would you ever?
You know, I just probably wouldn't do it, Oprah. I probably wouldn't, but I do get tired of seeing what's happening with this country. And if it got so bad, I would never want to rule it out totally, because I really am tired of seeing what's happening with this country, how we're really making other people live like kings, and we're not.
We have losers. We have losers. We have people that don't have it. We have people that are morally corrupt. We have people that are selling this country down the drain. We don't have a country if we don't have borders. We will build a wall. It will be a great wall. It will do what it's supposed to do. Keep illegal immigrants out. Now, with that said, we're going to have a beautiful big door right in the middle of that wall. And people are going to come into our country. And they're going to come in legally. And we want people to come in. And we want to treat people fairly. But we either have a country or we don't. We need a border. We need a wall.
And I think that he shows the playbook, which is, this is a show trial. It's not a genuine investigation. There's been the genuine investigation. The guy who had full power to open any door he wanted did it, and he concluded that there's no collusion. There's no relationship between the Trump campaign and Russia. Now, I know there's all of the complicated conversations about obstruction, potential obstruction. I get all of that, right? But that's not what these hearings are about. They're still trying to go back pretending that Vladimir Putin stole votes in Pennsylvania, that he rigged voting machines in Ohio, that somehow he tricked little old ladies in Florida. It didn't happen.
No, it did not. And Nadler is pressing Corey Lewandowski on these questions. He's like, you know, did this meeting occur? Did this meeting occur? Did you meet with foreign agents? Did you meet with foreign operatives? Did you try to influence the election in any way possible? No. He's been saying this for over a year. The Mueller report spent $40 million looking into the same subject. They found absolutely nothing. It's a scam. It's a complete scam. I feel so bad for everybody who's got dragged up into this.
I love you, LA! Welcome to beautiful Los Angeles, California. This is basically what you see when you watch it in the movies.
But as soon as you go on the freeway ramp,
I love those freeway signs. This is America to me.
or if you get off the freeway ramp, it looks already totally different.
Welcome to the original Skid Row in downtown Los Angeles, better known as Central City East.
There are approximately 6,000 homeless people on Skid Row currently, and it spreads over 54 blocks.
Believe me, you don't really want to walk around here.
Battle COVID, we have not taken our eye off the ball in terms of our responsibility to address the issue of homelessness. We came in to the year with this being our top priority. We're going to continue to focus on this through the end of this year, and I can assure you for many, many years to come, as we must do more and do better in this space.
They do have shelters down here which provide food for everybody here.
They really try to help those people.
Already, you have members of your cabinet that are being booed out of restaurants, who have protesters taking up at their house, who's saying no peace, no sleep. No peace, no sleep. And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
This president, I don't trust this president.
Now, we've mocked Maxine Waters before in this show, but we should take her seriously on this subject. Congresswoman Waters is a confirmed expert on the question of housing, especially her own housing. Consider where she lives, in a 6,000 square foot, $4.3 million mansion in one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in Los Angeles. Now, how'd she afford a place like that after having spent the last 40 years working in government? We'd hate to speculate. How does she keep getting reelected despite not living in her own congressional district? No clue there either. The district Waters actually represents in Congress has the second highest percentage of African American residents in the state of California. Now, the neighborhood where Waters actually lives is just 6% black, or as she might put it herself, if she didn't live there, it's segregated, like 1950s level segregated. And as we mentioned, it's really, really rich. So how did Maxine Waters pull off a housing coup like that? Who knows, but it almost qualifies her to be HUD secretary herself.
He's not working in the best interest of the American people. His motives and his actions are contemptible, and I will fight every day until he is impeached. Impeach 45. Impeach 45. Impeach 45.
If you look towards your left, that's like a little area. It's called like the Mission, where people can get free food and they can hang out right there and they get some help. And then when you go around the corner here, see this building on the left, you see where the gates are, like the rolling up gates. This is where Michael Jackson was dancing in Beat It. That's where they filmed that music video, remember? And then a little bit towards the right, that's the original Hard Rock Cafe. That's where Jim Morrison and the whole Doors took like a picture photo shoot right here. See this building? And back then it was already Skid Row. And then when you look towards your right, you see this original building they used for the movie Ghostbusters. Only the interior shots though.
This week, the president has admitted to asking the president of Ukraine to take actions which would benefit him politically. The actions of the Trump presidency revealed the dishonorable fact of the president's betrayal of his oath of office, betrayal of our national security, and betrayal of the integrity of our elections. Therefore, today, I'm announcing the House of Representatives moving forward with an official impeachment inquiry. I'm directing our 6 committees to proceed with their investigations under that umbrella of impeachment inquiry.
Skid Row has the largest concentration of homeless people in the entire United States.
Hollywood is only a few miles from downtown. The glitz and the glamour. They filmed hundreds and hundreds of movies down here in Los Angeles downtown. But you really never get to see what's going on in the side street here. Every time they do a movie, everything is being cleaned up. So you're basically not gonna get to see all this. This is the real downtown you see right there, the US Bank building. Down the street here, they have the toy district and the fashion district. I've been here many, many times. And as soon as I pass through, I see what's going on here. But 2 miles further down, I already forget what I saw. And this is, most of the people in Los Angeles don't even get to see all this here. And if they do, right away you forget about it. You don't want to see all this. But this is how it is right here in Los Angeles.
In the last half hour, the US Senate has found President Trump not guilty of abuse of power and the obstruction of Congress in his historic impeachment trial. Donald Trump had been charged with high crimes and misdemeanors by the members of the House of Representatives. But as expected, the Republican majority in the Senate cleared him, which means he will fight for re-election in November.
People just laying on the street like this man right here. From the distance, when you see Los Angeles city line, it looks like paradise, but there's a huge gap between the rich and the poor. And just a few miles away from here, Beverly Hills, life is totally different.
President Trump issuing a warning to California's Governor Gavin Newsom: fix your state's homeless crisis or there will be federal intervention. Here with more now, Fox News correspondent Christina Coleman. Christina.
Hi, Charles. Well, President Trump is essentially saying enough is enough when it comes to the chronic homelessness crisis in this state. Today, Trump also blasted House Speaker Nancy Pelosi over this, tweeting, quote, Nancy Pelosi's district in California has rapidly become one of the worst anywhere in the U.S. when it comes to the homeless and crime. It has gotten so bad, so fast, she has lost total control. And along with her equally incompetent governor, Gavin Newsom, it is a very sad sight. Trump's warning comes after the Department of Housing and Urban Development report shows the nation's recent overall 2.7% rise in homelessness was caused by a 16.4% increase here in California with its homeless population. This latest HUD report analyzes data from 2018. California leads the nation in the number of homeless people with an estimated total over 129,000 in January of 2018. Now, Governor Gavin Newsom has been saying HUD and the Trump administration is playing politics when it comes to addressing this crisis. Newsom says the state is doing more than ever to tackle chronic homelessness and that California has invested $1 billion to help communities fight this problem. But he says the federal government needs to step up and do more.
I imagine if you're President of the United States, any leader like myself feels a deep sense of responsibility to address some of the most
The rest of Californians are suffering under Governor Gavin Newsom's onerous lockdown and struggling to pay their bills. The governor appears to be making backroom deals to pay for his massive new $3.7 million mansion. According to investigative journalists at Red State, Newsom was apparently gifted the 12,000 square foot estate featuring more than 8 acres of land along the American River in Fair Oaks, just outside Sacramento, through an LLC that's owned by his cousin. Newsom's cousin, who is also his longtime business partner, Jeremy Scherer, paid for the estate in December of 2018. Less than a year later, records show his LLC gifted the home to Gavin Newsom completely free, stating that Newsom was part of the LLC, allowing him to avoid the transfer tax. The problem is Newsom didn't file any of this extra cash, and they aren't mentioned on his financial disclosure forms, which also don't include the LLC or the millions of dollars in gifts. Then, in January of this year, Newsom received $2.7 million when they finalized a cash-out refinance, and that was all tax-free since proceeds from mortgages are exempt from taxes. Attorneys and legal experts say being gifted such a property through an LLC is a huge warning sign for tax and regulatory agencies and likely indicates either tax fraud, money laundering, or a payoff or bribe. Currently, Newsom has failed to report at least 6 months' worth of rent, as well as the value of the new Fair Oaks mansion he received last year. This could result in some serious legal consequences, including criminal prosecution, since the value of the rent on its own totals more than $17,000 a month, well above the $500 a year limit on gifts. Newsom's acceptance of the mansion from the LLC is technically illegal. Tax experts also say because it was a gift, the value of the home itself, over $3.7 million, is also considered income and must be reported to the IRS as such. But this isn't the first time Newsom has managed to avoid paying the taxes he's imposing on the rest of us. Back in 2003, Newsom was cited because he conveniently failed to report more than $11 million in both real estate and business loans. He also failed to report at least $2.1 million in loans from his pal, Gordon Getty. Newsom makes roughly $1.3 million a year with his wife, and at the time he received the new home, owed at least $3.2 million on the mortgage for his previous house, meaning he likely didn't have the cash on hand to buy the new home himself. So then, as it stands, Newsom appears to have received a $3.7 million home as a gift, as well as $2.7 million tax-free, while also retaining the title to the home, adding up to what experts say could be construed as money laundering. Meanwhile, a picture of Newsom's new front gate at his Fair Oaks mansion shows the pro-illegal immigration governor does, in fact, believe in physical barriers to keep people out.
And as we know, Los Angeles is one of the most progressive cities in the world. Free food giveaways. They call LA the City of Angels. Skid Row was already around in the 1930s, but it really was established by the city in 1976. Where shelters and services for homeless will be tolerated.
An assault on our democracy, on the first branch of government. My friends, we are in a very difficult place in our country as long as Donald Trump still sits in the White House. The 25th Amendment process is when it is determined that the president is unfit for whatever reason, to be president of the United States, in case some people don't know what that is. And he clearly has indicated that over and over again. And by inciting sedition, as he did yesterday, he must be removed from office. While it's only 13 days left, any day can be a horror show for America. My members are very much interested, as are, my phone is exploding with impeach, impeach, impeach. The president must be held accountable again. If he wants to be unique and be doubly impeached, that's kind of up to him and his cabinet as to whether he should stay in office. Impeached, defeated, impeached, gone.
And ever since, the crime and the homeless population started rising until today. And Governor Newsom said that he spent $100 million helping the homeless. You see those tents miles and miles on the street.
Homelessness all over the headlines this week, and this evening we are going to answer a question that many of you have been asking for years now. If San Francisco spends nearly $250 million on the homeless every year, why are there still thousands of people living on the street? Where does that money go, and how does the system work or not work? KPIX5's Wilson Walker takes it all apart for us.
It's the result of programs that are not really working, not working to anybody's satisfaction.
Well, it's hard to argue with that, but to better understand how this all works, let's start with that one big number. $241 million. Now, of that, 50 million funds shelters and another 50 million fund health services for the truly homeless. But the single most important thing to know about that $241 million is that most of it has absolutely nothing to do with the people we see on the street.
She's just standing in the middle of the street. When you walk around here, it really feels like you're on a different planet.
Hygiene is a really big problem here in Skid Row. They don't have to only worry about COVID, they also have to worry about tuberculosis outbreaks, hepatitis, or typhus. Some of those places are rats infested. And look at the people. They just sit down on the street right here. Some of them just put a mattress down and sleep in the middle of the way.
Welcome back. We're here with House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, and we've asked her to share something from her home for a little late show and tell. Speaker Pelosi, what have you found? What are you going to share with us from your home?
Chocolate.
Really?
Chocolate candy.
Oh, wow.
And this is something you can get through the mail.
Okay.
You never run out. Now show
me.
you?
Yeah, absolutely. This is the episode of Cribs I never knew I needed. Oh my, wow.
Other people in our family go for some other flavors, but chocolate, and then we have some other chocolate here.
See, I've always felt a connection with you, and now I understand why.
Mm-hmm.
Since you've been isolating in your house, how much of your regular diet do you think is ice cream and candy?
Well, as much as possible. It is. I enjoy it. I like it better than anything else. And I don't know why, but it seems to agree with me. I have a lot of energy, and we just got it restocked with the ice cream right for Easter Sunday because we were, shall we say, enjoying. I don't know what I would have done if ice cream were not invented.
This is absolutely heartbreaking when you see something like this.
Donald Trump has been acquitted of inciting last month's attack on the U.S. Capitol. As expected, the U.S. Senate fell short of the two-thirds majority needed to convict the former U.S.
Even if
president.
I wouldn't have told you about all this, you would not believe it. You have to actually see it to believe what's going on.
While I was filming this, I saw lots of people in their cars driving by, and offer the homeless people food and drinks. So there are people, they care about the homeless in Los Angeles, but how can you actually stop all this? Where do you start? How do you start changing everything? And you probably asking yourself, German in Venice, why are you filming all this sad stuff? I mean, I just document all this and hopefully something good can come out of this. Maybe somebody sees it and gets inspired. Maybe somebody helps a homeless person because of this video. I really don't know. I had family members writing me from the last couple of videos I did about interviewing the homeless people. They saw their relative, their cousin on my video, and they contacted me and thanked me so much. They didn't know where he was. So something good came out of this. And I'm also hoping something good will come out of this.
What we saw in that Senate today was a cowardly group of Republicans who apparently have no options because they were afraid to defend their job, respect the institution in which they served. Imagine that it would be vandalized in so many bad ways that I won't even go into here, and that they would not respect their institute. That the president of the Senate, Mike Pence, hang Mike Pence, was the chant, and they just dismissed that. Why? Because maybe they can't get another job. What is so important about any one of us? What is so important about the political survival of any one of us that is more important than our Constitution that we take an oath to protect and defend? Oh, these cowardly senators who couldn't face up to what the president did and what was at stake for our country are now going to have a chance to give a little slap on the wrist. We censure people for using stationery for the wrong purpose. We don't censure people for inciting insurrection that kills people in the Capitol.
You're here.
All those tents here on the sidewalk, they look worse than a refugee camp. See, right here on the corner, people give out food and drinks. There's a lot of people eating out of the trash cans. The big business close to Skid Row protect their property with barbed wire. Who knows what happened here, if somebody got hurt or not. A burned RV right on the sidewalk.
What I want for my people, I just want patience and pace that we can get to the U.S. because they're having a new president, where's Biden. He's going to help all of us. He's given us 100 days to get to the U.S. and give us legal mental paper so we can get a better life for our kids and family.
So that's how they're interpreting Biden's 100-day plan, that Joe Biden has given them 100 days to get to the United States so they can have a pathway to citizenship. Even Hondurans know that Joe Biden and the Democrat Party support an America last
And now
agenda.
to new arrests announced by Houston police involving nearly a dozen members of the street gang MS-13. You see some of the suspects pictured here. The charges involving 5 homicides that happened in our area. Channel 2's Phil Archer is live in Southwest Houston where one of those alleged incidents happened. Phil.
Yeah, this is part of a continuing crackdown by city, county, state, and federal police on one of the most dangerous street gangs in the city. As you said, they have now charged 11 suspects in 5 separate murders. One of those cases involving an unlucky diner who just happened to get into an argument with a gang member at this restaurant last month. The killings were carried out over 3 months with unusual brutality, according to Chief Art Acevedo.
The people that you see here in front of you are absolutely the worst of the worst. They have no respect for the sanctity of life.
On June 6, an MS-13 member and police informant, Victor Castro Martinez, was taken to Cullinan Park in South Houston and hacked to death with a machete. 4 MS-13 gang members are currently jailed in Harris County for that killing, 2 others in Liberty County, and police say more arrests are expected. On July 3rd in Liberty County, a 14-year-old boy was beaten with a bat and hacked to death with a machete for trying to leave the gang. Police charged 2 of the suspects in the Cullinan Park killing with that murder, Walter Mejia and Jimmy Villalobos Gomez. A month later, on August 4th, an argument at the La Union restaurant left a customer, 25-year-old Johnny Paramore Torres, dead. That was after Torres allegedly argued with a gang member, Hario Lacona Cardenas. Lacona allegedly waited for him to walk outside and shot Torres repeatedly as he went to his car.
Appears that what got him the death penalty from these callous criminals was an argument, again, in a restaurant.
Last Thursday, the body of a 14-year-old girl, missing since last May, was discovered buried in the 5300 block of West Fuquay.
Multiple suspects are known and charges are pending.
The body of a man was found a month earlier at the same location. 2 MS-13 gang members are currently jailed in Galveston for his killing.
The number one priority of any mayor is to maintain the safety and security of the people that live within our city.
They used to say when you see shoes hanging over the electrical wire, that's the place where they sell drugs. But I don't think that's true anymore. You can buy drugs anywhere down the street here. And look at all the tents on the sidewalk. How are you supposed to walk on this sidewalk here? There's no way. This guy was pretty inventive. He just connected a hose to the fire hydrant. Of course, a huge percentage of the people here on Skid Row use drugs, but there's a lot of mentally disturbed people. When I'm driving my car here, some people are in the middle of a street, they hit my hood. I mean, it's kind of dangerous. And when they saw me filming, I have people throwing stuff at me. It is really not a safe area, especially when you film.
So Spencer, tell us about the Biden-Harris immigration platform.
Thanks, Dan. And like you mentioned, the Biden campaign has actually laid forth a pretty detailed wish list when it comes to immigration. It's very long. It has a lot of new proposals, a lot of new visa categories that they want to implement. They want to drastically increase the refugee cap. They want to offer mass amnesty for all illegal aliens that are currently in the United States. But what it doesn't do is clearly detail the impacts of their platform on American voters. So we decided to do that for them and take a deep dive into what it would actually look like if you implement these policies. And
do we think that the Biden himself has ever looked at what the numbers would be under these proposals, or is he just signed off on something that sounds nice?
Well, I really don't think I can answer that question. Based on what we looked at, I would guess not, because if all of these policies were implemented, we found that it could lead to as many as 52 million additional immigrants entering the country in the coming years.
Despite all the bad stuff you see, when you see this downtown skyline, it makes me feel really good. I love downtown Los Angeles. I know people that live in Los Angeles for 30 years or even longer. They've never been down to Skid Row. I mean, we all have problems, but when you drive by Skid Row and see all those tents and all the homeless people, you really feel good about your situation. And you just think, hopefully this will never happen to me. How can you get out of this situation? It's already hard for yourself getting up in the morning. You have things to do. Those people really have nothing to do. They don't even have a place where they can shower. They don't really have a place where they can go to the restroom. Lots of people use buckets and then at the end of the night they throw it on the street. I mean, you see all this, but you cannot smell how bad it smells everywhere here. When you get out of the car, even in the car, you can smell it.
Equality is about patriotism and fairness in our country. It's long overdue for Congress to pass the Equality Act, but now we have the majority and can bring it to the floor. There's a great deal of excitement in our caucus, which is 60% women, people of color, and LGBTQ. So imagine that, the power and strength of that caucus. So it is a source of great pride. It's not just about the LGBTQ community, it's not just about fairness, it's about America. And in passing this legislation, we will strengthen our country.
What I couldn't really understand is most of the homeless people that walk around in downtown, they don't even wear a mask. And then you think all those people are so close to each other, COVID would spread like crazy and people would die like flies, but this is not the case. I don't really know. I don't have any information if there's a lot of homeless people in hospitals or not. But I'm just wondering, like I said, barely any of the homeless people wearing masks.
Right now in the United States, people should not be walking around with masks.
You're sure of it? Because people are listening really closely to this.
Right now, people should not be walking. There's no reason to be walking around with a mask. The masks are important for someone who's infected to prevent them from infecting someone else. When you're in the middle of an outbreak, wearing a mask might make people feel a little bit better, and it might even block a droplet, but it's not providing the perfect protection that people think that it is.
But now the experts say with these variants, it's time to double up. And where to? This morning, Dr. Fauci endorsed the idea on the Today Show.
If you have a physical covering with one layer, you put another layer on, it just makes common sense that it likely would be more effective.
You see this green structure here on the side? They call them green machines. Those are toilets. They have 9 of them in downtown Los Angeles. And in the beginning, the criminal element in Los Angeles took over and they were charging $1 to $5 for the homeless people to use the restroom. But now I saw they put a whole bunch of porta potties on the side. You can see them right here in the back. And they also put like little hand sanitizer stations with water on a few of the corners.
The Governor Newsom recall effort just hitting a major milestone, with organizers claiming that they have gathered more than the 1.5 million signatures needed to trigger a special election. Joining me now is Ann Hyde Dunsmore. She is the Rescue California campaign manager and finance director. Well, congratulations. Now that you have the signatures, what comes next?
Well, we don't, actually. I mean, that 1.5 million signatures is only 82% valid by our calculation, 82 to 84% valid, which means, and that's very normal, which means we need to get to 1.8. We're going to try and get to 2 million, actually, David, because we got to have a shenanigan buffer on top of the 1.8. Yeah, because unlike ballots, signatures can be discarded and invalidated behind closed doors. You don't get to have observers in that process.
Gotcha.
I'm one of those who thinks that signatures and petitions are like votes, but apparently the Secretary of State does not.
You're going to...
This morning, some lawmakers fuming over that nearly 6,000-page stimulus bill packed with pork, causing 6 GOP senators to vote against it, including an outraged Rand Paul.
If free money were the answer, if money really grew on trees, why not give more free money? Why not give it out all the time? Why stop at $600 a person? Why not $1,000? Why not $2,000? Maybe these new free money Republicans should join the Everybody Gets a Guaranteed Income caucus.
Well, that's Rand Paul. He joined Rick Scott, Ted Cruz, Mike Lee, Marsha Blackburn, Ron Johnson in voting against this passage. Let's bring in Special Report's own anchor Brett Baer. Hey, Brett, we saw the need for $25 billion emergency rental assistance. We understand $10 billion for the Postal Service, funding for COVID-19 vaccinations in schools. We did not think we were going to get all this Kennedy Center stuff, the Pakistani gender studies things. Am I just naive? And as we rolled through some of these things, it seemed like some lawmakers were caught by surprise, too. How does this stuff happen?
Well, listen, this is an omnibus bill, and this is what happens in this process, which is heinous. It is really why people hate Washington, is when this happens, that it's all rolled into one massive bill, 5,600 pages, as Pete mentioned. Now, the COVID stimulus obviously is very well needed, and supporters were pushing for that for many months. But when you all roll it in, $2.5 trillion in spending, and you throw it out and say, here's an up or down vote, there is no way that any lawmaker is going to page 4,870 and saying, I don't like this. And that's where lobbyists operate in Washington, and they get stuff packed in there. And these 6 Republicans say, we don't like this process. True to form, Rand Paul has always talked like this, and he's concerned about the $27 trillion in debt. Republicans haven't seen that concern in a long time. You may start seeing it pretty soon.
They used to power wash all the sidewalks, but ever since COVID, they're not doing it regularly like they used to. So it's getting worse and worse. The trash is just overflowing everywhere. It's not even safe to park your car here. Sometimes metal rods or something else is sticking out and you're scratching your car. Even when you try to go to the meter, people come out and just ask you for money.
Come back. Our guest tonight is one of the most popular politicians in the country. Please welcome the Governor of California, Gavin Newsom. How are you, Governor? Thank you for being here. I can't imagine how busy your day is, so we really appreciate you making the time. Now, I can't help but wonder, Governor, I've heard a rumor that your children cut your hair. Is this correct? If it is, they have done a sterling job.
Unbelievable. A few weeks ago, I looked like Jeff Spicoli. So, I mean, these guys are masters.
Look at this. Look at this. Your kids are under 10, right?
It's literally, I have not, and it's actually true. I have not gotten my hair cut except from those 4 spectacular but challenging children.
Well, they've done a great job. Now, how are you doing? How are you holding up?
I am doing fine. I mean, obviously, all of us, all of the challenges we're facing all stacked up one after another.
In the midst of this, of course, everybody is focused on police brutality and the calls to reform the police. I know that you've just been on a listening tour in your state. What have you heard from business owners and local leaders whilst you've been on this listening tour that has resonated with you?
I mean, the fundamental point that is made over and over again, the Black community did not create these conditions. We did. We own that. We have a value system in this country that values a certain people over other people based on the color of their skin. And that's been institutionalized for hundreds of years. We've got to own that fact, and we've got to own up to our responsibility.
I mean, last night it got really cold already. You see it, but those people really have to live here. This is their house. This is where they live. Believe me, I'm not the first one doing a video about Skid Row. There's hundreds of videos on YouTube. Well, in the beginning, the problem was really easy to ignore, but now more and more people moving here to downtown Los Angeles, and it got so big that you can't look away anymore.
All his possessions are cramped up in a shopping cart. They gave out a lot of vouchers to the homeless to stay in hotels because of the COVID situation. There's a lot of empty hotels, but there's still too many homeless people on the street here. How do you help the mentally ill people? This girl is just sitting down in the middle of a street and tying her shoe. People just laying on the sidewalk, sleeping, hanging out.
Homelessness is exploding in the state of California, particularly in the cities, and if you've been there recently, you know what we're talking about. According to HUD here in Washington, 114,000 homeless people reside in that state. That's a quarter of the national total. Bill Wells is the mayor of El Cajon, California, near San Diego. He said that rather than fighting homelessness, lawmakers in his state are actively promoting homelessness. While panhandling in 10 cities enjoy legal protection, he says the homeless have learned they can commit petty crimes with impunity, which is shocking to hear. Mayor Wells joins us tonight. Mr. Mayor, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Tucker.
It sounds so perverse it's hard to believe. The state of California, you say, is encouraging homelessness. How?
Well, there's been a legislative philosophy that's really encouraging normalizing homelessness. And we've seen several laws that have come by. AB 109 reclassified 70 crimes from serious to non-serious. And the result of that was about 8,000 people were released from the prisons, and 1,000 of those people ended up on the streets. We know that about 10% of all homeless populations are former prisoners. And that's just one of the many laws.
10% of all homeless in the state of California are recently released prisoners?
Yeah, it's true. I should point out that besides being the mayor of the city, I'm also a mental health professional. I've done this kind of work for about 30 years. I have a doctorate in psychology, and I work in an inner city ER. And I can tell you that most of the homeless people that I run across are involved in drugs and alcohol, and a lot of the new laws have a lot to do with that. For example, Proposition 47 reclassified many of the felonies, and Senate Bill 180 made it very difficult to send people back to prison who are involved in drugs and alcohol. And a lot of the homeless advocates very much want to ignore anything that has to do with hinting that some of the homeless people have drug and alcohol problems, when if you ask any police officer or ER doctor, we know it's probably at 90% or above of people in the homeless population are drug or alcohol abusers.
But why, and it's obvious when you're there, but why would officials want to lie about something like that?
Well, I think that homeless advocates really are trying to protect the system in which they give away money through various programs, and they feel that if people feel that the people that are getting these benefits are drug addicts or alcoholics, they'll somehow not qualify for these programs.
But what about the people who aren't homeless, but who aren't rich, and just you live in a neighborhood, you're excited to buy the house, and all of a sudden you got a lot of people living on your street? What does it do to their quality of life?
Well, it's been terrible for the people of my city. We've seen about a 35% increase in homelessness in El Cajon, but in the beach cities, I know you're from the beach area, we've seen over 100% increase in homelessness in many of the beach cities. And this has a lot to do with methamphetamines and the increase in drug production that comes from Mexico. And so it's terrible for the quality of life.
Meanwhile, cities in California are cutting down racist trees because that's the real problem. Mayor Wells, I'm sorry to hear what's happened to your city, and Godspeed fighting back against it. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much.
A couple of years ago, they had a big thing on the news that hospitals dropped their patients right here on Skid Row. They were still wearing their hospital gown. They just dropped them off because they didn't know where else to put them. I see social workers down here trying to help the homeless, but it's not going to be easy to fix this problem. It's going to take years.
Luke, we're here in Los Angeles. You're homeless. Tell me about it.
Well, there's a lot to tell. Los Angeles is a very, very crazy place. I came here with my wife. Her family said, come on. We got on a Greyhound bus. We're on our way. We started calling the first day. We left, and no answer. We figured just a fluke. Called the second day, no answer. And from then on, no answer. We haven't spoken to them since. You come here and you come here and you get stuck. And if you got nowhere to go and no real family to bail you out, which me and my wife don't have, you kind of are forced to go to Skid Row. Skid Row is by the bus station. It's where all the shelters are. It's where all the food is. It's where all the resources are located. But Skid Row is a very nasty place.
Go on.
It will make it so you are constantly just worried about what you need to survive because everything's being taken from you. You're being taxed for living on certain streets. You have to pay. Basically, drugs run most of Los Angeles itself, but especially Skid Row. Skid Row hurt me in ways I can't ever explain. It made me do things, it made me see things that I wish I never would have seen. It's amazing what people can do to other people.
You're gonna have to. I can't hear you with the traffic.
It's amazing what people can do to other people. I especially feel bad for the females here. They get used up in a whole different way. My wife experienced that. But ultimately, I've seen some great acts of kindness here. I've seen some great things. The problem is you get trapped here, and people say, I panhandle for money. People say, get a job. Okay, well, if I had somewhere to rest my head where my stuff wasn't stolen, where I didn't have to worry about blankets, where I didn't have to worry about food, I might be able to get a job. But then also, I've been seen through this entire town now, and now I'm known as homeless. So to get a job, I have to leave the area. I have nowhere to get a shower daily. I have nowhere to keep work clothes. It's not as easy as get a job, you know?
And you don't get much sleep.
No, right.
Because you're in survival mode, and the other night I met somebody and his shoes were stolen while I was sleeping.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, that's a very funny thing. Your shoes get stolen a lot while you're here. And who steals a homeless man's shoes? Your shoes can be completely worthless, and someone still takes them. And that's a really hard thing, because you wake up in the morning and you've got no shoes, and you got to walk around where people throw broken glass, people piss on the ground, cockroaches, and you got to look for shoes. And that's very disheartening. That's one of the strangest things I've come across here. I've had shoes that are completely worthless and stink so bad somewhere, and someone still takes them. But it's also sharpened me. I don't miss a beat. There isn't too much. I'm pretty in tune with everything and everyone around me. I'm a lot more aware than they are, I assume.
People who have spent time on the streets are very aware of their surroundings.
You have to. You have to be, because if not, your surroundings will get you. You know, especially on Skid Row. You know, I don't go there at all. I don't see no other way out. Like I said, I feel like I'm falling and never hitting a bottom, or at least hitting a bottom that's false. And every time I go to try to climb out, that bottom's pulled for me, and I fall more. If I could reach an absolute solid bottom, I might be able to climb out. But there is no real bottom, because it's always being pulled out from under you. You're always falling further.
And now Christmas is around the corner, and I don't think those people really care about anything. They just want to try to survive right here. It's like a jungle out here. You have to survive. There's shootings down here, there's crime every day, fights.
New details on the big budget cuts that are coming to the LAPD. The NBC4i team was first to report last week about how some of the detective units in the department will be shut down.
Now the chief says more people will have to submit traffic and crime reports online, and a homeless outreach unit will be closed. Our investigative reporter Eric Leonard joins us with more on that.
This is not a desired course of action.
Chief Moore has detailed more of how he plans to cut 350 job positions to adapt to the $150 million defunding ordered by the mayor and city council.
We'll be disbanding our HOPE teams and some other specialized resources.
Officers who work the homeless outreach details, the HOPE teams, will now move to other jobs. Officers from the Metropolitan Division will be reassigned to neighborhoods to help deal with street violence, and more people will have to file their own police reports
Sometimes
online.
people just laying on the concrete, you don't know if they're dead or not. I mean, probably sleeping, but nobody really cares.
I think we hadn't had any rain since 6 or 7 months. Just imagine it starts raining hard, really hard. You know, how's the ground in your tent gonna be dry? It's gonna be another big problem for those people. Wow, look at this. Mahatma Gandhi. Those encampments are just one block from City Hall. See the building in the background? This is the City Hall of Los Angeles, downtown.
Looks like the news is doing a story here.
There is a lot of police present on Skid Row.
I had to record this. I told you before, I love fire hydrants.
I really like this area here. I've been here many times doing a photo shoot. This is the 7th Street Bridge, and people live underneath the bridge here too. There's a fallen angel right here. This is the worst poverty in a first world country. Here you can take some really good pictures of downtown. It looks nice with the sunset in the background. Trains are still coming by on those tracks.
Well, Los Angeles is called the City of Angels. Maybe they're not angels anymore. Maybe they're like fallen angels now. Anyway, I do not recommend you guys to go down to Skid Row. There's nothing really to see, and especially if you film, you can get a lot of trouble.
Let me ask you something. What if Seattle is dying and we don't even know it? This story is about a seething, simmering anger that is now boiling over into outrage. It is about people who have felt compassion, yes, but who no longer feel safe, no longer feel like they are heard, no longer feel protected. It is about lost souls who wander our streets, untethered to home or family or reality, chasing a drug which in turn chases them. It is about the damage they inflict on themselves, to be sure, but also on the fabric of this place where we live. This story is about a beautiful jewel that has been violated, and a crisis of faith amongst a generation of Seattleites falling out of love with their home. There is another part of this story too. It's about a solution, an idea for a city that has run out of them. And I ask again, what if Seattle is dying and we don't even know it?
I drive my 12-year-old's carpool through Yesler when we do carpool, and it's a good talking point about, what they're seeing, what we can do to help, how we can make a difference. And honestly, at this point, I don't have a good answer for how we can make a difference.
Now.
Ah, that's a long ass line.
Our movement is about replacing a failed and corrupt political establishment with a new government controlled by you, the American people. The establishment has trillions of dollars at stake in this election. For those who control the levers of power in Washington, and for the global special interest, they partner with these people that don't have your good in mind. The political establishment that is trying to stop us is the same group responsible for our disastrous trade deals, massive illegal immigration, and economic and foreign policies that have bled our country dry.
Bring it on.
Why are you driving?
She wanna suck on the lip.
We have an I-Team update for you tonight. We're now hearing from the NYPD's top cop about an uproar on the Upper West Side. It has to do with hotels converted into shelters for those experiencing homelessness. We first showed you the pictures back on Thursday. You saw some men passed out on the street, addiction, mental health problems in full view. But as the I-Team's Chris Glorioso shows us now, the NYPD says this is not an easy fix.
We clearly have a number of people with mental illness. We have people that are down on their luck and homeless. We got to bring the services, I think, to them.
The images are not pleasant. People passed out on sidewalks, slumped over near restaurant tents, some with hands down their pants.
They also put sexual offenders in these hotels.
The Guardian Angels now pledging more patrols on the Upper West Side. But advocates for people struggling with homelessness say it's not fair to assume all these people are residents of hotels that have been turned into shelters.
Some of us don't want to be in this situation.
Roland Houston says he's a resident of the Lucerne Hotel, and he doesn't like these scenes any more than his new neighbors. When we interviewed him, he was standing on a sidewalk filled with chalk messages welcoming needy New Yorkers to the Upper West Side.
One in particular that said, everyone needs a home. When I saw that, that really touched me.
But some neighbors say this is not about compassion, it's about common sense. Gary Koklari told us the relocating of such a high concentration of homeless men to his neighborhood threatens the Upper West Side economy.
Why don't we take Javits Center? They outfitted it for over 1,000 people with COVID. They can be socially distanced in there. They've got state-of-the-art security.
Gary's part of a Facebook group called Upper West Siders for Safer Streets. The group has now been featured in news stories for days, but even that media attention is raising eyebrows. This group of activists has been protesting the high concentration of drug clinics in Harlem for years. Marie Granville wants to know why temporary shelters on the Upper West Side have attracted so much attention, while permanent methadone clinics in Harlem have prompted no urgency.
He need a heater?
Yeah.
So you guys can stay warm, okay? Tent City is a place where there's homeless families. There are people who have no place to live, nowhere to go, nowhere to turn to. They work it up into a reality that we couldn't even imagine to wake up to. They wake up to the rats. They wake up to the birds. They wake up to the freezing cold. Right here in Chicago on Lakeshore and Wilson Drive. All right, Tent City, I'm getting ready to give you your propane tanks. This is Pastor. Come and get your propane tanks and your heaters. My name is Kerry Gitron, and down here at Tent City, they call me Pastor. I was a pastor for more than 8 years, and I woke up and discovered that God wanted me to do something more. And I felt that he wanted me to take action and change lives. How many tanks you need? I'm gonna give you 4.
Thank you. Go and get it.
Take care of it.
I will.
Okay? I began to call family and friends. I went to the bank and I took money out and we started purchasing heaters and propane tanks. And I said, we're taking this stuff back down there. And we began to take the stuff down there and we began to bond with the families here. Oh, I got some toiletries, you guys, deodorant. What y'all need? We bring in toiletries. We've been able to gather and give out over 40 heaters through personal donations from family and friends and out of our pocket. We constantly are working with families here trying to find out what meets their needs. I went and got a whole lot of propane tanks for you guys, man. Take you guys down and get something to eat. I'm a husband. I'm a father of 6 children 4 biological, 2 adopted sons. I work 3 jobs every day, and I still find time to do this, to come out 3 times a week and be with these families and find out where can we meet needs, how can we assist them, and how can we help them. Start this back up. There's our pilot. In a few moments, it'll be so warm in here, it'll feel like an oven.
He actually helped us a lot by bringing us propane and make sure that we stay warm during the wintertime.
If we didn't have him and we didn't have other people, I mean, we'd all be froze.
On my 40th birthday, I started this mission, and I've already been able to tap into the lives of over 100 plus people and changing their lives and helping them with the different needs that they have. And it's life-changing for them.
If a man's willing to pull money out of his own pocket to help somebody out, that's amazing.
We must help them. I must help them to bring hope where they've been hopeless, and that's what we've been doing here in Tent City. We're bringing hope.
How do you define? Are you a Bush Republican? No, I think I'm really, the people that I do best with are the people that drive the taxis. You know, wealthy people don't like me because I'm competing against them all the time, and they don't like me, and I like to win. The fact is, I go down the streets of New York, and the people that really like me are the taxi drivers and the workers, et cetera, et cetera.
What's the downside of being part of the 1% of the richest people in America, especially when you're trying to reach the middle class?
The funny thing is, I'm a rich guy, but I have this great relationship with the working people of this country.
I have to remind Ted Cruz that Teddy Roosevelt was also from New York, as many other people. Listen, Donald Trump, to me, is the last hope for America. I don't want nuance, I want bold colors, red, white, and blue. America, I have seen, Dagan, the last several decades, absolutely fray and decline. When I saw those guys on the boats, on their knees, I mean, that says a picture about America that I haven't seen ever before. And I think we need Donald Trump right now. The country needs him. And he's the only candidate, for me, that can stand up to the establishment, to the left and the right. And I've got to tell all of you something. People that I've talked to, even last night, I was out on Long Island last night, Democrats, not 1 or 2, but many, are voting for Donald Trump, as well as Republicans. I've seen this all over the place. So I think there's a big, big movement happening, and I got to say that, you know, we need him.
With such vast wealth, how difficult will it be for you to disentangle yourself from your business and your money and prioritize America's interests first?
Well, it's an interesting question because I'm very proud of my company. As you too know, I built a very great company, but if I become president, I couldn't care less about my company. I want to use that same up here, whatever it may be, to make America rich again and to make America great again. I have Ivanka and Eric and Don sitting there. Run the company, kids. Have a good time. I'm going to do it for America. So I would